Hello everyone, Counterspell Hater here, back with another EDH guide. Before I get into today's video, I'd like to say, please, using my link, support ALSF, fight against childhood cancer, one cup at a time. You can find information on getting involved, ways to give, and of course, donations, the primary way you can help. Um, it doesn't have to be, but it's the most common way. That's besides the point. The point is that you help out and that you share this video along with other videos on my channel with other people. That way they can also help others out. They can help ALSF fight against childhood cancer and also receive guidance from yours truly on building their commander decks. Um, with that also said, comment on this video, make an EDH request. Uh, you know the deal by now. Um, First come, first serve. I'll just remind you now. Make sure when you're making the request that you that the content you want to request has not already been featured on this channel. Like, for example, the Red Terror Goblins specifically has content that is already covered, that I've already covered on my channel. However, the Red Terror Dragons, the Red Terror Instants and Sorceries, the Red Terror Enchantments, I have not covered those uh t- those uh those decks, those deck techs. So those are slots available for you to make a request. You can also make a request for like standard deck techs that I have. Um, maybe see like maybe if you're interested in like something like the deck I've been using on MTG Arena recently, you can make a request for that to be featured in a video to explain everything in it and just kind of get a visual on it. And you could also, speaking of NTG Arena, you can make content requests for NTG Arena, maybe like me trying out like different decks or like building around certain creatures or like a certain combo or like something. It's all up to you. And even if you don't want to do that, I encourage that you make a comment anyways. Please leave positive feedback. Highly encouraged. You know, something to kind of a pleasant surprise. Um, shows your support, shows you're a true magician. Um, you're also a true magician if you're subscribed. But even if you're not, that's okay. Um, with that said, please leave a like and subscribe. Let's get into this video. And as I promised, we'd be covering the Brothers War Commander. And once again, we are looking at Mishra. This time it's Mishra Eminent one. And it is Grixis colors. And oh boy, if I put together a deck. So what this commander wants us to do is bring out some big scary artifacts that do just a lot of stuff in general, and then create copies of them that are 4/4 constructs. Now, and they also have to be non-creature, so sadly we can't use uh artifact creatures in here. Although we can, but like Mishra won't copy them, unfortunately, so we can't have like two Mycosynth golems, but we still that's not gonna stop us from having it in here. And we can't really, use any other permanents except besides artifacts. Or can we? Look no further than Mycosynth Lattice. I think I used this in my last video. Yeah. All permanents are artifacts in addition to their other types. All cards that are in play, spells, and perms are colorless. Where was I? Oh yes, players may spend mana as though it were mana of any color. Um, So what this allows you to do is use like enchantments, planeswalkers, and lands when you are creating tokens that are copies with Mishra Eminent one. So with definitely recommend Mycosynth Basis because it opens up a whole new gate of possibilities of what the heck you could do. Then there's Planar Bridge. Create copies of this. If you've got the mana to do it, you can get like two more things onto the battlefield. Free. Aether Flux Reservoir. Kind of a crappy image that I got, but hey, it can be a win condition. And if you've got two of them, cast spells while the other one's still around. Because the token Mishra creates, which is renamed by the way, it'll become Mishra's war form instead of what it's currently named. And actually, something to mention about that is that you can use that, I believe, to get around the legendary rule. So instead of having Planar Bridge, it'd be Planar Bridge and Mishra's war form. They both do the same thing, but you wouldn't have to obey the legendary rule because they'd be differently named legendary permanents. Anyways, Aether Flux Reservoir is a great one to copy. This can be a win condition in our deck, not to mention gain us a bunch of life and help us stay in the game. Paradox Engine. When we cast a spell and tap all land permanents we control, and to think we could quite possibly have two of these at once. Think of what we could do with that. Dante's Ether Heart. We create a token that's a copy of this. It's going to get us 2 energy counters, rise energy to the battlefield. And if we get enough, instead of having to sacrifice the original Dante's Ether Heart, we can sacrifice the token copy and get extra turns. So, depending on what you have, quite possibly infinite extra turns, if you will. Chroma's Memorial. Create a token that's a copy of this. That token's going to have flying, first strike, vigilance, trample, haste, and protection from black and from red, along with every other creature you have. Forsaken Monument. Colorless creatures you control get +2/+2. Whenever you tap a permanent for colorless mana, you add additional colorless mana. And whenever you cast a colorless spell, you gain 2 life. Need I say more? Prototype Portal can get us a whole bunch of stuff. It's not a bad card. Because even if, I mean, sure, you use the token that's a copy, but like, if you use that, just realize that you can only use it for one turn unless you're able to infinitely untap it and have like infinite mana. And that the card you exiled is then going to be gone, and you won't be able to use Prototype Portal to like create another token that's a copy of it. But with the original, you can create tokens that are copies, and with Mishra, as long as they're non-creature, you can create tokens that are copies with Mishra as well. Hellkite Tyrants is a win condition. Just read its text and you'll understand. Got it? All right. Mirage Mirror. Now, this can get kind of tricky, depending on what you do with this. Well, you can do some pretty janky stuff with this probably, especially when you're creating tokens that are copies of an artifact that can become a copy of any target artifact, creature, enchantment, or land until end of turn. Think about that. That could be havoc. That could be like that could be 2 Aether Flux Reservoirs or a whole bunch of Hellkite Tyrants. And then you've got something interesting, Spark Double. So with the way I understand this and how this works, because for example, here's what happens when you play this and you copy a land creature, right? Say it's like that. You have this out and you turn one of your lands into 0, 0, and you put 3 plus counters on. Try and copy it with Spark Double. Spark Double is just gonna become land, and it's not gonna have the creature type. So what this means is that with these Mishra's Warform copies, will end up happening is that like you could copy something like Planar Bridge, but Spark Double won't be a creature at that point. It'll instead be an artifact like the original Planar Bridge, which then begs the question: what happens if you were to create a token that's a copy of a Spark Double in that case? Because I don't think it'd be a creature at that point, unless it would still have the creature type. No, I don't think it would. Yeah, it wouldn't have creature, just be an artifact. So, and if that's the case, you could copy this. So that means since you're creating copies of Spark Double, it would not be whatever you copied with Spark Double. So like it wouldn't be Planar Bridge. Instead, you can make it like Mirage Mirror or Hellkite Tyrant. You could do some you could definitely mess up. This is another way to get around the system. I'll say that. Renegade Doppelganger. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may have Renegade Doppelganger become a copy of that creature until end turn. Same thing, I think. You create a token that's a copy of Mishra's with Mishra. So like you create a token that's a copy of Forsaken Monument. You have Renegade Doppelganger become a copy of it. It's not going to become the creature. It's going to become the original artifact. So does that mean you have 2 Forsaken Monuments that are both not non-creature? I'm pretty sure that's how that works. Tell me if I'm wrong. I just want to know, but from what I've seen in MTG Arena, if the copy effect on this works anything like Spark Double, then my theory would be correct. Mirror Turbine, you can create a bunch of mirror tokens for us. Doubling cube for a whole bunch of mana. We have 2 of these. That's a son amount of mana for us, and that's really good because we're not in green, so we're most likely kind of faltering in the early turns. Takes us a bit longer to get going since we're not in green, and that can be fatal for us. Saheeli, Sublime Artificer, creates us servo tokens, which with our -2 ability, we can turn them into a copy of another target artifact or creature we control until next turn. Which leads us to Brutoclad Telecore Engineer. Creature tokens we control have haste. At the beginning of combat on our turn, we can create a 2/1 blue mirror artifact creature token. Then we can choose a token we control, and if we do, each other token we control becomes a copy of that token. So what this means is that say we copy Mirage Mirror with Mishra, so we got Mishra's Warform being a copy of Mirage Mirror, so we have a 4/4 Mirage Mirror, right? And then we have a whole bunch of other tokens I like from Saheeli, or from like Mirror Turbine, right? With Brutoclad, we can suddenly have a lot more Mirage Mirrors or Mishra's Warform, which then can lead to even more janky stuff. Can go pretty wild with that too. Contagion class can slowly kill off creatures by the single. Can also proliferate, so help bring up Saheeli, help her survive. Or you could kill by the bunch with Contagion Engine. You create tokens that are copies of this thing. All your opponent's creatures are going to be dead in no time. I mean, proliferate quite possibly 4 times within a turn. If you're running Infect, people are going to die very fast. You're also going to lose friends very fast. But it's the price you pay for jank, you know. Throne of Geth can also proliferate a bunch. We can create a token that's a copy of Throne of Geth with our commander, and then use the original Throne of Geth to sacrifice that token if we want. Or if we have something that's really not useful to us. Mirrored and Besieged can be a win condition. We choose Ferritin. Can also help us create more tokens and get a board state out. Efficient Construction just gets this board state with flying. Arkham Dagson. So what we could do is we could create a token that's a copy of a non-creature artifact we control. It'll with our commander Mishra. So it'll be Mishra's war form. So say like engaging class does its thing. We proliferate with it, sure. And it'll have haste. Then with Arkham Dagson, we sacrifice that token and we go get a non-creature artifact card and put it onto the battlefield straight from our library. Which is pretty helpful in this tank because we can get something like Golem Foundry to get us to put out more golems, and with how much we're proliferating, this will be great. Or Oracle's Vault help us cheat out a bunch of stuff. Now here's a little trolling we can do. Wishclaw Talisman. So what we do is we create a token that's a copy of this, right? Using our commander. Then we would pay one to remove the to remove the counter, and we search for something, and then this would go onto then one of our pawns would gain control of the token. However, because therefore we're forced to sacrifice that at the end of turn, what happens is they don't get to use it. And the Shuffle Library. Opponent gains control of Wishclaw Talisman. But, however, it gains haste until in turn. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So they'll get it, sure, but they won't be able to use it unless they're able to untap it the turn we give it to them. And we have the Ozlith, keep our counters. Coat of Arms. We can since there are constructs that are being created by our commander, he can get buffed up by Coat of Arms. We can also create a token that's a copy of Coat of Arms and then get really wild. Obelisk of Erd. Obviously, we're going to choose Construct, and it has Convoke, so our creatures can help cast it. Kindred Discovery. Help us draw cards. Chromatic Ori. Hello, 10 mana. And a whole bunch of card draw. The Immortal Sun. Players can't activate Planeswalker's loyalty abilities at the beginning of your draw step. Draw an additional card. Spells you cast cost one generic less to cast. Creatures you control get +1/+1. We create a token that's a copy of this. I don't think I need to say much more. Sundial of the Infinite. This is actually an amazing card in this deck. So what you can do is you can forcibly end the turn with this, which means you exile all spells and abilities on the stack, discard down to your maximum hand size, damage wears off, and this turn effects, and until end of turn effects end. So what happens with this is if we create a token that's a copy of a non-creature artifact we control with our commander, and it'll be a 4/4. And it'll have to be sacrificed at the beginning of the next end step. So, and since it's going to be on our turn, the next end step would be on our turn, or our end step on that turn. But with Sundial of the Infinite, however, we can straight up end the turn, and then we'll be able to keep that, because at the end of the turn, the second part of Mishra's ability, triggered ability triggers off, forcing us to sacrifice the token we created on that next end step. However, with Sundial of the Infinite, we can just exile that trigger that trigger from the stack, that ability from the stack, and it won't happen. So then we'll keep the creature. Witchbane Orb. Destroy. When it enters battlefield, destroy all curses attached to you. You have hexproof. I don't think I need to say much more. Maraud Fury of Valcom for extra combat. Hellkite Charger to do the same thing. This can actually go infinite. Um, believe it or not. So the way this goes infinite, I believe. Well, we can get a lot of combats out of this. We can also be infinite. I'm trying to think of how to explain this. Yeah, we'd attack. So we create a token that's a copy of Chromatic Ori. We also need where is it? There it is. Mirror box for this combo. So Gearbox says the legend rule doesn't apply to burns you control. Each legendary creature you control gets +1/+1. Each non-token creature you control gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with the same name as that creature. So since the Chromatic Ori, whether it's named Mishra's War Form or Chromatic Ori, it's still legendary. So if we have two Mishra's War Forms, but they're both copies of Chromatic Ori, we're gonna have to sacrifice one of them. But with Mirror Box, we don't have to obey the legendary rule anymore. So with the Chromatic Ori here, what we do is we create a token that's a copy of it with our commander. We attack with it. Hopefully it survives. And then also all then with the original one, we pay the 5, right? And then with like 2 other mana we'd be able to pay the full cost of Hellkite Charger for its attack trigger. And then we untap all attacking creatures, and after this phase, there would be an additional combat phase. So then from there, we would create another token's copy of Chromatic Ori with our commander, right? And we would hold that one back because then we could tap that copy and the original. Well, we'd have to attack. We'd have to give vigilance first, probably, but you know what I'm saying. We'd keep paying the cost because we keep creating chromatic ores, and eventually we'd have enough to go infinite. I think. I just need to think about this. We're wasting too much time. But this, I'm pretty sure, this, and this, all combined with this, would go infinite. Yeah, because with vigilance, you attack with the copies. If you have vigilance, which I'm pretty sure doesn't. Sorry if I'm wasting too much time here. Why? Yeah, vigilance. So with the Chronos Memorial here, if you have that out, then you have Mishra creating copies of Chromatic Ori. They're gonna have vigilance and all flying and all that, haste and everything. Hellkite Charger, Mirror Box. You'll be able to get you'll so what you do is first time, right? Create a token this copy with Mishra. You have Chroma's Memorial out to get everything flying, vigilance, trample, haste, and protection from black and red, first strike. So then create the token with Mishra. Then you attack with that token and Hellkite Charger. You tap it for its mana ability and the original Chromatic Ori to pay for the cost. Then you would untap with Chromatic Ori. Then you go to your next combat and you create then you could create a token that's a complete different copy of so you can create a token that's a copy of Time Vault. And since Chromatic Ori, the token that you created has vigilance, you'd be able to keep attacking with it, tapping the token and the original Chromatic Ori for 10 mana, pay for a Hellkite Charger, and keep getting infinite. There you go. Infinite extra combats right there. And with your commander, that could be, infinite copies of something like Mirror Box or Time Vault itself, which is kind of terrifying. Because if you're able to untap it, that's also like extra turns, which we can do with Clock of Omens, which then leads us into infinite turns with Time Vault. Pretty simple combo. You just get two artifacts together. Then you have Clock of Omens. Then you got Time Vault. What you do is you use Clock of Omens activated ability to tap two untapped artifacts you control to untap target artifact to untap Time Vault. Tap Time Vault, take an extra turn of this one. You untap everything except for Time Vault because it doesn't untap during your untapped step. So then with Clock of Omens, you untap it again. There you go. You got infinite turns. Shock, Resonator, double up on triggers from our commander. Mirror Works is kind of busted because of Mycosynth lattice, which I mentioned earlier. So now with that, we can create tokens that are copies of Hellkite Charger or Chromatic Ori or Mirage, Fury Vacom, or because all of our permanents are artifacts, our own lands. Yes, we can create tokens that are copies of our lands by paying 2. So in this deck, in combination with Mycosynth lattice, could actually seriously ramp us out. Then we've got Mimic that. We want to buy our opponent's creatures and create tokens that are copies of them? Why not? Then we, of course, create another Mimic that. So another interesting thing, say we create a token that's a copy of Mimic that with our commander, Mishra Eminent one. And then a creature our opponent controls dies. We then exile it with the token that's a copy of Mimic that. Mimic that then gets sacrificed at the end of turn. So that, but the creature that we exiled with that token that was a copy of Mimic that is still exiled. So that's a way to make sure your opponents never get back their creatures, unless they've got like some means of getting back creatures from exile. Lithium Form Engine can copy target activated or triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Can copy target instant or sorcerer spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy, or can just straight up copy a permanent spell you control. And we can create a token that's a copy of this because of our commander. I don't think I need to say much more about this. Staff of Domination. With there's another infinite combo here that's much simpler to explain. So what you just do actually is that it's actually 2. So the first one, Staff of Domination, right? You got that. Then you got Chromatic Ori here. So then you'd create the token that's a copy with Mishra Eminent one. And then then you tap that token, right? With Staff of Domination, you'd pay the 3 to untap to untap that token that's a copy, and then you pay the 1 from Chromatic Glory to untap Step of Domination. So you have 1 mana left from the token that you created that was a copy of Chromatic Glory. And you keep doing that and you go infinite. Another thing you could do is you could create a token that's a copy of Time Vault with Mishra, which would lead to extra turns because the copy enters the battlefield tapped, but with Staff of Domination, you're easily able to untap that. Then you just tap it, take an extra turn, and then sure, the token would get sacrificed at the end of turn, but on the next turn you just do that again. From there, you've got infinite turns. Pretty simple. Azor's Gateway. I forgot the flip side of this. It should be Sun Sanctum. That was my mistake. I'll just have it centered now. So Sun Sanctum can add an amount of mana equal to our life total. So with Micros Inflatus, that's just making that land an artifact, we can create a token that's a copy of it, and then have a whole bunch of mana. Or we can straight up create a token that's a copy of Azor's Gateway itself with Mishra. And it doesn't exile itself and then return itself to the battlefield to transform. So we'd be able to get 2 Sun Sanctums that way. And we want the mirror box, of course. Mindslaver. So what you can do with this is absolutely evil, because you can, instead of sacrificing the original one, you create a token that's a copy of it and sacrifice that token to take control of target player during that player's next turn. And since we have like a bunch of infinite turn combos, you can make sure that no one ever gets their turn again and that you're the only one at the table playing. Even if this isn't infinite, it's still evil. Sharding Sphinx can create a bunch of tokens. Memnarch. We can turn something into an artifact and then gain control of target artifact so that we can, if it's a non-creature artifact, guess what? With Mishra, we can create tokens that are copies of it. Joy, Ageless Innovator, tell this cheat out artifacts. I actually have a commander guide dedicated to this one. Go check out that episode. Get Lord of the Vault to get an artifact back from our opponent's graveyard onto our battlefield or a creature. Academy Ruins can get artifacts cards back from our graveyard on top of our library. Archer of Veronica to draw cards. Treasure Vault. This is an artifact land on its own. So what we would do is with Mishra, we create a token that's a copy of this. It's going to be a artifact creature land. It'd be a 4/4, and then we just pay a bunch of mana to it, sacrifice that token that's a copy, and create a whole bunch of treasure tokens instead of sacrificing the original treasure vault, and just have like a continuous reusable source of treasures. Adventures Fair gains a bunch of life. Power Depot. Modular 1, this is actually very interesting. Because what you could do is with Modular 1, you could have an artifact creature out that is in a token that's copied. And you create a token that's a copy of Power Depot. That token is sacrificed at the end of turn because of Modular 1. First of all, it'd be a 5/5, and it'd have 5 plus counters on it. So when it dies, that'd be free. A free 5 plus counters put onto another artifact that you control. Welcome back to another episode in the long run series where we basically take a camera. Anyways, that said, we have 15 basic islands, 15 basic swamps, and 15 basic mountains. And with that said, the end of this guide, starring Mishra Eminent 1, go donate and help Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation for Childhood Cancer. Fight against childhood cancer 1 cup at a time. and find a way to even cure it. Hopefully, get involved, find out ways to give, and of course, donate. All that information and more will be waiting for you once you use my link in the description. This is why you should share this video along with other videos from my other found on my channel with other people. That way they can help out too. They can receive guidance from yours truly when they're building their commander decks. Comment on this video, make an EDH request. Like I said, there are slots waiting to be filled. Make sure that the content that you want to make a request for has not already been featured on this channel. So like the Red Terror Goblins, I have done that. However, the Red Terror Dragons, the Red Terror Instants, the Red Terror Sorceries, the Red Terror Instants and Sorceries, the Red Terror Enchantments, those are slots waiting to be filled. And you can make the request to just say the word, you know? You can also make a request for like standard deck text if you're interested in that, which there's no problem. I have no problem with that. I have stuff prepared, so you can make a request to see like an MTG Arena deck I've been using recently. Or you can make MTG requests for like MTG Arena content itself. Or if you don't want to do that, just make a comment on this video anyways. I encourage positive feedback, of course, and it really means something to me, you know? It also shows you're a true magician. You're also a true magician if you are subscribed. So be a true magician, subscribe to this channel, stay subscribed. Stay along, pal. Stay along for the ride. Even if you don't, that's okay. You're still playing Magic. Trust me, it's hard enough as it is to find people who are interested in Magic gathering. So good on you for what? For being a part of this community. Thank you. And like this video. Like, subscribe, comment, share this video, and hit the notification bell. That way you don't miss another one of my videos or any other content that will be featured on this channel. With that said, I will see you tomorrow. Goodbye.